Well, Trump's swearing in comes one day after the first exchange of detainees by Hamas and Israel took place as part of the ceasefire deal in the Middle East. First, 3 Israeli women hostages were released Sunday by Hamas, all of them abducted October 7th, 2023. Then later on Sunday, 90 Palestinians were released from Israeli jails, all of them women or teenagers, and many held in administrative detention without charge. During the first 6-week stage of this ceasefire, hundreds of Palestinian prisoners are expected to be freed in return for 33 Israeli captives held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We're going to talk more about this with Andrew Hilliar, who joins me now on the set. Andy, on Sunday we saw these scenes of joy coming from the release of these Israeli hostages and these Palestinian prisoners. Now, walk us through what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, the next few weeks are going to be absolutely crucial. We have the continued release, of course, of hostages and prisoners in batches, 33 hostages and roughly 1,900 Palestinian prisoners to take place. Talks for phase 2 of the deal are supposed to begin on day 16 of this first phase. Phase 2, of course, meant to bring a permanent end to the war. So that is really crucial. And that's why the Israeli opposition says that it wants those talks to start immediately. Now, on the other hand, Israel's far right wants reassurances that the war will resume again if Hamas is not completely destroyed. Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he reserves the right to restart the war. He says he has Donald Trump's backing as well. And as we saw in those pictures yesterday, showing that key moment when those 3 hostages were handed over from Hamas gunmen to the Red Cross, it's clear that Hamas is still very present in Gaza. So that will certainly test Israel's patience. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu, what he does is he often says different things to different people, and that's how he works politically. Then he plays for time. Now, what he's telling the far right is in contradiction to what the deal aims to do, which is bring a permanent end to the war. So that is why this deal is very fragile, especially at this stage.
In the meantime, we're starting to see a surge in humanitarian aid during this first phase of the deal, humanitarian aid going into Gaza where it's desperately needed. But at the end of this month, the end of January, laws aimed at ending UNRWA's operations in Gaza are coming into force. So what's going to replace it?
Yeah, so the ceasefire provides for roughly 600 lorries of humanitarian aid crossing into Gaza every day. We know that more than 600 trucks carrying humanitarian aid have already crossed into Gaza since the ceasefire took hold on Sunday morning. But the very pressing issue indeed is this upcoming legislation, which would effectively stop the main provider of humanitarian aid in Gaza, which is UNRWA, from carrying out its work. Now, Israel accuses some of UNRWA's employees of complicity in those October 7th attacks. UNRWA says it fired those employees straight away, even before it found any evidence against them. Now, the legislation, as you pointed out there, comes into effect at the end of January. And what it does is it bans contact between UNRWA's agency staff and the Israeli authorities. Now, that would make it virtually impossible to guarantee the safe movement of UNRWA staff in Gaza because the agency relies on coordination with Israeli authorities. Just a reminder that UNRWA is the main provider of humanitarian aid in Gaza. It runs schools and shelters as well. Now, Israel has suggested 2 alternatives. Other UN agencies like the World Health Organization or the World Food Programme. But, the reality is that they'd probably have to hire former UNRWA staff because that staff has the local knowledge to operate in Gaza. Or Israel has suggested that private charities and international NGOs could step in. But again, they would struggle to replicate the kind of large-scale operations that the UN is used to operating.